I find it that these agents, they're so busy with trainings and so busy going back to that 80-20 rule, doing the 80%, the postcards and, flyers for their open house and everything like that. And they're not moving forward. They're so busy, but they're broke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So walk us through, what should they be focusing on? Like what's the definition of productivity that's going to move your business forward as a real estate agent, especially a new agent? Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2 of the New Agent Jumpstart podcast. I'm joined by my wife and co-host, Ashton.
I'm here again.
You're here again? What was that? We were joking right before we got started with this. We were going to do, and we're back.
And we're back.
And we're back. So, I don't know about you, but I am overwhelmed by how much support we've had in the last week since we launched our first. I mean, it's only been, 4 days? Well, by the time this comes out, it'll be a week. But as we're recording this right now, it's been 4 days since we launched the podcast.
I mean, people that don't even do real estate have texted me and been like, this is so cool you're doing this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you watching it?
Yeah, why are you even watching?
But I'm happy.
So I think your brother is one of them. I was like, what? Dude, you're not even... But no, that's pretty cool. So I'm very happy about that. If you're just joining us for the first time, we're here on YouTube. We are also on Spotify. Spotify is a video podcast as well. So if you want to watch it, Spotify, you can watch. And then we're also on Apple Podcast. So all 3 of those platforms, you can check us out. We hope you do. If you like what you hear, leave us a like and a comment and everything. We're responding to every comment. Speaking of comments, I think we have now made it. We are successful.
Yep.
We have had 2 hater comments so far.
Yep.
So don't know who they are. When you check on their profile, there's nothing.
Yep.
So, but
That's probably my brother too.
That's probably, yeah. So, we got our first hate comments. I love it because, like anything in life, especially real estate, as you get to be more successful and you're doing business at a lot higher level than majority of other agents out there, you're going to get hate, right? You're going to become a target.
Yep. So
I remember I used to get all kinds of notifications from the MLS and everything of agents, turning in my listings as inaccurate and all that. And there's nothing wrong with them. It's just people are going to hate.
Yep.
So if you're not getting hate, you're probably not doing enough.
Yep.
Right. So, So what do you think? How is it going so far? Do you like what we're doing?
Well, the funny thing is, at first, I was not sure if I wanted to do it, but I knew we needed to do it because that's where everybody's going. And I hate making videos. Like, that has been a really long time running joke. And
I don't want to make a video.
I don't want to make a video. And now here we are making a video and just talking about stuff that honestly I don't think we ever thought we'd be talking about. And it feels fun. Like, I actually was looking forward to coming in here today and recording it. And it's like, this is kind of our niche. We do it together, so we have that in common. And then it makes me happy that it's reaching people already. And it's people that they may be in a place where they don't quite know where they want to go, what they want to do, but we're giving them some clarity to that already. And that makes me happy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's I kind of, every now and then I have imposter syndrome, right? Where I feel like, who am I to be speaking on the subject? And I heard a quote. I heard, a guy that I follow, he basically says, if you feel like you're only a 6 or a 7, on a scale of 1 to 10, the people that you're trying to help are not 8s, 9s, and 10s, right? You're talking to people that are just getting started and maybe up to a 6, and I think we've always had a big heart for new people getting into the industry and wanting to grow. I know you've got on to me a lot of times of just being open and available to people, without even getting paid for my time. But I love to see people grow with their business,
Yeah.
love to see entrepreneurs go out on their own with no safety net and just kill it. Right. And so if we can help people do that with this podcast, then that just means the world to me, because that's where my heart is. I know that's where your heart is.
Yep.
And, I just hope that we can continue on, and I hope people reach out with questions, and we can, really help people on a much more deeper level, I guess.
Well, and I feel like where we do real estate, like it's very down home, down to earth type advice we're giving, because we're not a $1 million home market. Like, we have $1 million homes here, but we're making a living off of $100,000 to $300,000 sales. More than likely, that's what most people sell here.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like learning how to get plenty of those for you to be able to quit your job and do all that. Like, it's a real thing here, and it's very possible. Like, there are so many homes in that price range for you to sell. There's no reason you can't be successful. You just have to learn the activity and do it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're not on the East or West Coast where it's, one home sale is going to set you up for half a year. I mean, I remember when I got started in 2013, the average price point at the time was $141,000. What is it now? About $250 here in Wichita, somewhere around there. I see it go from like $225 to $270-ish. It depends on the month, but I would say around $250 is probably our average. And that's, you sell 2 or 3 of those a month, you're making a pretty good living, right? So, I mean, it's definitely doable, but you just got to work at it. You can't be a hobby agent and expect to make a full-time living.
Exactly. Early on, I made a goal. I always wanted to have 4 pending, because 4 pending at any amount got me exactly what I needed, or pretty darn close. And so if one fell off, you just go get another one. But I really want us to reiterate, when we're talking in here, that this is a business. You work it every day like you're supposed to. You're going to be successful, even if it's the most simple task. It's like one of the comments was, we don't have a real job. And honestly, I mean, the beauty of what we do is it doesn't always feel like a job, because we're making the active choice. This is what I'm doing today. I don't have anybody hovering over me saying, you have to get this done today. But at the same time, we're making the active choice to work even without someone telling us what to do.
Yeah.
And it gives you a lot of freedom for creativity and expansion. And in the way that a real job, you're capped for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you are capped. I mean, you're literally at somebody else's beck and call. What somebody else thinks you're worth, everything like that. I've never really cared for the hourly wage deal, and I love the independence of, our reward is what we go get, right? And so I've always been productivity based, and not just, hey, I gave you my time, now I want money, right? So I love a results driven industry, and I think that's what sales is all about. You get paid when you produce a result. We only get paid when we close on a property. And for a lot of people, for one, a lot of people choose not to get into this industry because they need that safety net. But, if you get to a point where your floor is 2 or 3, maybe 4 transactions a month, like you said, and you now that's your base, then you build your income off of that and keep producing at that. And then you find ways to leverage.
Yeah.
And it's like, we just brought on Lori about a month ago. I've been trying to talk you into getting an assistant for the last 2 years almost, and because you were definitely at that level just by yourself. And I think we found some amazing talent with Lori.
Yes.
And it's just, she hardly comes out of her office, but we don't have to watch her and everything. She has some experience in the real estate world, luckily, and man, the things that she's been able to put in place for us, it just takes your mind off things. I mean, it's just, and then she's doing stuff that we never even imagined.
No, she's doing exactly what an assistant should be doing, and making me look really good with what she's bringing to the table. Like, she's coming up with ways for me to reach people that I'm like, I didn't even think I could reach people that way. And I didn't specifically tell her to even go look for that. She just is doing it.
Yeah.
It's an awesome thing.
It's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So, one thing that I found myself doing this week is getting caught up in basically what I've told new agents not to do, right? And it's with this podcast is I would go do like you've heard of the 80-20 rule, right?
Yes.
The Pareto principle, 20% of your activities are going to result with or the 80% of your, results. And I found myself working on the other side of it. I found myself doing the 80% activities that only gets you about 20%. And with that, it's like, oh man, I got to tweak our logo for the podcast and everything like that. And it's just stuff that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking, this is exactly what the typical agent will do is they'll focus all day long on putting together the perfect flyer for their open house, the perfect postcard or whatever, and just tweaking it because they don't want to go do the real activity, right? And
or they don't know what the real activity is.
That's true. That's true. I mean, it could be, as simple as they just don't have the direction. And so they think that they're doing something that's going to move the needle when in actuality, I mean, that's just a very small thing that will move their business forward.
Well, and the thing that's hard with real estate, especially if you come from like another office job where you work 8 to 5 or something, is you think that your goal should be, I need to be in the office. But your goal is, I need to be out on appointments. Because if you're not out on appointments or doing something like that, whether it be showing houses or making phone calls, door knocking, whatever you're doing to gain business, then it's actually that 80%.
Yeah.
So your goal, well, starting out is don't be in the office. Like you need to have stuff going on where it's hard for you to get into the office to work on that 80%.
Yeah. No, I look at your business and what you've been able to do. Like I was trained, you have to be in the office and you have to be making phone calls and everything, but you do everything. You hardly come into the office to actually work on things. When you're in the office, you're typically meeting with clients or, you were doing a lot of administrative tasks and just needed to get away from home and stuff. But I mean, for the most part, you're doing stuff, on your phone from home and you're just knocking out lead generation wherever you are.
Well, and that's the great thing about this job is like summertime, it's noon, I'm at the pool with the kids. They're fully sufficient to swim. They're happy. I can take 15 minutes to send out 5 text messages to follow up with people. And if I've done that for the day, honestly, I'm okay for a little bit because the goal is touching your business.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you've taught me a lot as far as what prospecting looks like. And, I still feel like I win the day, I guess, when I get into the office and I make my contacts. I learned the whole win the day term from Brian Buffini. And he talks about, if you make your contacts that you set your goal, you set your productivity goal, and you set amount of contacts that you're going to make. And if you make those contacts, then you win the day, right? Doesn't matter what else got going on. You got home inspections later, you got showings, whatever. Doesn't matter as long as you get in and you make your contacts. And that looks different for different people. For me, I have made a living off expired and canceled calls and so making the contacts for those calls. But for you, it's checking in with buyers that you've been following up on for 6 months.
Yeah. I just closed on a deal where I had followed up with that buyer for 1.5 years. And we knew each other really well by the time they were ready to look at a house. And it was an absolute blast because they were living, I believe, in California. They were relocating back to Kansas and they were just lining some stuff up with their financing. And so I would check in every couple of weeks. And by doing that, I built a great rapport with them. And by the time they were ready, we were basically friends. Like all we would talk about when we got together was just random stuff. It was rarely real estate. And so just following up and making sure that I'm touching everybody that's in my database frequently, like that is my lead gen. And I do a bare minimum type system for me because I have 3 kids that I also take care of. And I don't get to just go sit in the office all day. I like to make sure that I have time with my kids. That's why I like this career. But for me, I have a bare minimum of I have to touch at least 3 people a day. I need to make sure I post on social media. That is my worst one. But now that I have Lori, she's really helping me with that. But I just need to make sure I'm touching everything that either gets people to see me or at least making sure my buyers know I'm still there. It sounds really weird, but it's like you need to make an appearance. Like somehow get in their face that you're still doing real estate, because there are so many real estate agents. If you do not do that, they'll find somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
Like I know all of our friends and family probably know at least 10 realtors. Like it's so easy to just, oh yeah, there's a realtor. So it's very important to make sure that you're focusing on the things that keeps you in front of those people.
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, Millionaire Real Estate Agent book calls it, staying top of mind. Mm-hmm. And they had the 33 touch when I first got in. I think it's a 36 touch now. I think is the data, 36 touches in a year. So kind of walk us through for the people that are, listing. You've had clients that you followed up with for, you said this one was over a year. Mm-hmm. So what's a typical contact look like, and, what frequency and I mean, what does that look like for you from a prospecting basis?
So I have a very laid back way of following up with people. And I think it's because of my niche. I work with a lot of first-time home buyers. A lot of them are pretty close to my age. So texting is our generation's way of communicating. And so if I've contacted them through texting before and they appreciated that, I will follow up with a text. And it's generally every 2 weeks if it's someone that I know is pretty far out. And it's just, hey, just checking in, just want to make sure everything's going okay. Do you need anything from me? I make it very personable. If I know they had something going on, I'll bring that up, because I don't want it just to be, hey, I'm still a realtor, use me when you're ready. It's more, hey, what can I do this week to help get you closer to where you want to be? And that works. And sometimes I get a response, sometimes I don't. Sometimes they'll call me out of the blue and say, hey, I got a question about this. What do you think? And then we have a phone conversation. A lot of people will end up adding me on Facebook, and we communicate on Facebook, and I'll get a message saying, hey, I haven't forgotten about you. And then I'll just respond to them, and it's just making it a relationship type business, really, because everybody that I work with, I'm genuinely kind of sad when we're done, because I have talked to them so much. And then once they get their house, it's like, well, now it's just sending them their mailer and or connecting on Facebook. There's a relationship change though, because you've achieved that goal. But for me, I always make sure I send the people that prefer texting a text. I don't care if you are phone calls only. If you don't learn how to text people now and find a way to be a person through a text, then you're going to struggle, because most people have gotten past, I want to pick up the phone and talk to a real person.
Yeah.
They see it as an inconvenience. I saw this hilarious thing on Facebook where it's like, remember where we used to pay for ringtones? And now it's always on silent, or our ringtone's always on silent. And I'm like, that's so true, because people have gotten to where if you can text it to me, just text it. Because I don't want to take the time out of the day to have small talk. I have a lot of things going on. So I try to be very respectful of people's time. If I call them, it's usually because I have a more lengthy update from the lender or something like that. Like, hey, your pre-approval got bumped. I just want to make sure you saw that sort of thing. And so I try to make it as personal as possible.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good approach. And, it comes back to building a relationship instead of being, salesy. Mm-hmm. And, I'm posting a video today of, what you should be, I say today, when this, today as we're recording this is basically if all you're doing is, calling the people that are in your database, and you're just asking, who do you know that's looking to buy, sell, or
it's so cringy.
It's so cringy. I always hated that, right? And you just got to build a relationship. Mm-hmm. This industry, and sales in general, but especially this industry, you're helping people with their biggest purchase or their biggest sale, and they're nervous. They don't know what the heck to do. It's not like going and buying a car where you walk in and then, depending on the dealership, an hour or 10 hours later, I guess. But, you walk away with a car that day. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a process.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to have a good relationship with people to walk them through that process. So, you've taught me a lot of just, especially taking a more, I wouldn't say passive, but it's it's a more passive way than a direct phone call, you know, with text messages and everything like that. And at first I remember I thought it was crazy because I wasn't trained that way. And now I see the results that you've had and just being able to have normal conversations with people, and it's gotten you so far. So
thanks.
So something I really want to touch bases on, especially for new agents, right? Is this deal? I know this is kind of a crazy title, but I call them training junkies. Remember me talking about that?
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like it's the agent that goes from training to training to training to training to training to training, and then they never implement anything.
Yep. They get so bogged down with what do I even start with, or they're always seeking for the next best thing, and they never get going with any of those things.
Yeah, and you know I find it. I get it from being a D personality. I want to know the entire process, and I get it, right? But from the agents that I've worked with in the past, I can't remember how many times I've said, look, until you get a client, none of this other stuff even matters, right? And so I find it that these agents, they're so busy with trainings and so busy going back to that 80-20 rule, doing the 80%, the postcards and, flyers for their open house and everything like that. And they're not moving forward. They're so busy, but they're broke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So walk us through what should they be focusing on? Like what's the definition of productivity that's going to move your business forward as a real estate agent, especially a new agent?
So basically, if you are not communicating with a new person every day, you are not pushing your business forward, in my opinion. So like for me, if I have a lead come in and I communicate with that lead, that is a dollar producing task. If I take that lead, put them in my database and go home, but I never contact that person, that was not a productive day. That is just a name put in the database. So basically separating what would I have my assistant do to help me versus what do I need to do to get business? Because the problem is a lot of us like to do the office work because we like to look cushy in our office. But in the grand scheme of things, if you are not actively getting out there and communicating with someone, you are never going to get any closer to getting a closing. I had a girl that did so many cool things with her business. Like her page looked amazing. She had the coolest flyers. She literally had the coolest setup for open houses. But at the end of the day, she's like, why am I not talking to anybody? And I'm like, because you're not talking to anybody. Like you're expecting people to call you and to message you just because you have a cool Facebook banner or your business card looks good at your open house. Like if you're not actively talking to the people that come into your open house and you're not having them sign in, congrats on just sitting in someone else's house for 2 hours. Yeah. Like you did absolutely nothing. I always had the goal, if I did an open house, I need to have at least 2 good, solid conversations. And I got really good at getting people to give me all of their information because I would have someone come in, I'd request that they sign in, they'd give me their name and maybe an email. But then I would, the longer they were there, the more I saw they were interested, or they were just, I could tell they were in the home purchasing mood, but they may not have liked that house. I started to ask a few more questions. Before long, I'm like, hey, would you mind if we talked a little bit more about this after the open house? And they're like, hey, yeah, sure. And then they would write their phone number down. And I'm like, yes, like that's why I came. And if you don't have the phone number and the email address, I mean, you have a name, sure. You could, I guess, stalk them down on Facebook, but you need 2 ways to communicate with them. And you need to hammer them after the open house, not in a stalkish way, but you need to send them a handwritten note if you could possibly find them on like the tax record. Yeah, we kind of sound stockish sometimes, but seriously, I mean, you can find their information like that, send them a handwritten note, and a lot of times that like blows them away.
Well, that reminds me of a listing I got. I was up in Park City, and I was doing what we call mega open houses. The Joshua Smith mega open house event, and I had, 25 as a minimum. I remember 25 directionals just in the neighborhood. I had 3 7-foot flags that say open house. I mean, it looked
It
like
was nuts.
It was
It looked like a circus.
But, I remember after that open house, and I never sold that house because that was a really bad client. But I remember I was picking up those directional signs out at the end of the neighborhood or at the front of the neighborhood, right? And I had this vehicle pull up beside me, and they're like, "Hey, we don't know who you are." And I thought I was in trouble, right? But we don't know who you are, but when we go to sell our house, we're calling you, right? So I gave them, my business card and everything. And all I had was their first name. Like, they introduced themselves. All I had was their first name. No, I didn't have their last name or anything. So I came back to the office while I was still fresh. And I remember looking in the GIS survey map. I clicked on every single parcel in that neighborhood until I came across both of their names, right? And then so now I have their address. I found them. And then I wrote them a handwritten note with my business card. Basically, hey, it's so great to meet you. If you ever, have any questions about what your home's worth or anything before you guys go to list it, just reach out to me. 2 days later, I got a call. And they say, hey, got your card. Don't know how you found us, but we got your card. And we want you to come out and take a look at our house. And I listed that house that week, and we got an offer, I think the first or second day. I can't remember. But I sold that house all because I wrote the handwritten note. And I got out in front of them and, just did the activity. But that all stemmed from an open house that I did. And
it's proactivity I call it the uncomfortable proactivity.
Yeah.
Because there's the things that kind of make you feel pushy or too much, a lot of times in sales are what set you apart. Because if you sat at an open house because I don't want to bother anybody, guess what? They came to your open house. They're expecting you to talk to them.
Yeah.
Like, I know for a fact when I go into an open house, I'm going to talk to the real estate agent. The best part now is we're realtors, so we can just say we're in real estate. You don't have to follow us around.
Well, and the crazy thing is we'll walk into an open house, not even tell them that we're real estate agents, and they just sit there. They don't ask us to sign in. They don't communicate.
We'll even initiate the conversation. We're like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah,
And
just to see if they'll talk to us.
Yeah.
And I'm just blown away by how many people will let you walk through their open house and not even try to have a conversation with you. Like, what are you doing?
The beauty of the shifting market right now is we're getting back into a time where we can do open houses again.
Yeah.
And you may not be getting a buyer for now, but you could be talking to your 6 month down the road buyer, year and a half down the road buyer. And it is pivotal with the market that we're in to make sure your pipeline is strong. So who cares if they're not buying right now? You're going to need them in a year anyways.
Yeah.
So just keep moving forward, keep getting people in your pipeline. So if you can do an open house and actually communicate with the people, that is one of the best things you can do right now to get people in your database.
Well, and I'll say this, you can always do an open house, right? So even if you're an agent right now that's listening to this and you don't have any active listings or you don't have any listings at all,
oh yeah,
then you need to do a search of other agents that are in your brokerage for one. I don't know how many times you've done an open house for other agents in our office.
I didn't do listings when I got started. Of course, when you're first starting, you don't have anything anyways, but I became good friends with 2 seasoned agents that never wanted to do open houses. And they got to the point where they're like, hey, you want to do my open house? And I picked up most of my first year buyers from doing open houses for other agents. And I didn't care. Nobody that came to the open house cared. Like, you own that open house, and that is your lead gen for the day.
Absolutely. I mean, Connie Butler, she started a year before I did. And when I left the team and was an individual agent, she was my mentor. And she was a year ahead of me. And she let me do open houses on her listings. And that's how I got a majority of my initial clients when I was out on my own. So team up with a seasoned agent that actually is taking listings. Go learn how to do open houses, and we'll talk more in detail about how we set up open houses. And there's actually a checklist. I mean, there's a system that we follow when we do open houses. It's not a typical, hey, we put out 5 signs on a Friday night and pray that people show up. I mean, we have a full 1-page checklist, and I think there's like 26 different things on there that
I mean, honestly, if you did a quarter of the things that are on that list, you're going to be set apart anyways.
Way ahead.
Like, it's nuts. But I think it's important to know, like, all of this now, because especially like with the winter months coming, Like, you're going to have to get clever with how you contact people. And they're not all looking in the spring. I mean, there are people that are going to want to buy in the winter, but like your prime time to buy is slowly creeping by. And so you're going to have to start talking to all those people that you may not be talking to right now in order to build your pipeline for the winter and the spring months.
Absolutely. And I remember I did open houses, not just on Sundays. I mean, the typical open house around here is Sunday from 2 to 4.
Yeah.
I remember doing open houses on Saturdays. Those work. I remember selling a home from an open house on a Tuesday over the, I did from 11 to 1.
Yeah, it
so
was
over
a weird
the
lunch period one.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So I was taught, hey, that works when people. Now those work really well when you're on like a main thoroughfare type road and you got a lot of signage.
I will also say when you do something like that, you can advertise to offer lunch. And a lot of people will partner with you and have like tacos or something like that to go lunches. You partner with a lender or title company.
Yeah.
A lot of times they'll do that and you'll get people in just because there's free food.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say probably the most important thing when it comes to open houses is signage. So
Yeah.
if you're going to do open houses at a high level, you got to invest in signage and flags and everything like that. Because I remember asking the question when people walk in the open house, the very first thing I would say is, hey, welcome. I appreciate you guys stopping by. How did you hear about my open house? And more than half was like, good grief, man.
You spam the neighborhood with your signs.
We saw all your signs. And I would just laugh and I'd be like, well, they work, I guess. So that's awesome. And, but that alone got me so many listings, just like the one we were talking about a little bit ago. And so if you're able to set yourself apart from a traditional agent that just puts out a couple signs, you can really hit open houses. And I really think with this market that we're going into, I think open houses are going to be the opportunity of the market, more so than, any other lead generation source out there.
Yeah. Well, and I think people got to get out of their mind that you do an open house to sell that house.
Yeah.
Not that it would be sad if you sold the house, but it's like you're using that as a mill for leads. So if you have a listing, use it to your advantage. If, like you said, if other people have a listing, you want to do an open house, do it and use that as a way to generate your leads, because the biggest thing that you can do for yourself is make sure that you are adding as many names as possible to your database.
Yeah.
And so we'll go back to that training junkie thing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with trainings. I personally hate sitting through trainings. Like, that is a big struggle for me, but there are some that are really good and you need those. And I've had those and they've helped me learn a lot of what I've done. But the biggest thing is, if you're going to go to a training, implement it. And most of those trainings are going to tell you you've got to get out there and contact people. So however that is, that's what you have to do to keep from being broke.
Yeah.
The times that I have that dip in my business is the time where I didn't do the lead gen.
Yep.
And it's a roller coaster effect. Like, and this is why we had to hire Lori. I would go from having 2 pending and during that 2 pending period, I do a ton of lead gen. Then I'd have I think I had 13 pending earlier.
13 at one time.
13 pending earlier. And then they'll start to close off, or I lose a few. And then I get down to where, I'm back to my 2 to 4 range again. And I got to do it heavy again. But the goal with Lori is where I don't forget to do my lead gen. She does all that extra stuff.
Well, not to mention you were you were in freak out mode.
Oh my gosh. I was starting to get to the point where I'm like, I'm going to miss something.
Yeah.
Like, I have so many home inspections scheduled. I'm still actively doing my business. Like, I'm going on showings on top of working my deals. So it's just I needed help for sure.
Absolutely. So real quick before we end this one, I want to give one tip to somebody that, wants to get started with open houses. I know that wasn't really the direction we were looking to go for the second one.
But it's a great way to build your business.
But it's a great way to build your business. One thing that's worked for me great in the past, hop on Zillow, look at homes for sale by owner. All right. A lot of people will go straight for the kill on the listing appointment.
Yeah.
And they got to understand that for sale by owners, for the most part, are the long-term play, right? You got to wear them down because they think they know better than you, right? Or they wouldn't be trying to do it on their own. So at least that's what I found over the course of my career. So one thing that I did is I always reached out to them and said, hey, I'm not looking to list your home, right? So it kind of brings their guard down. But I do have a win-win opportunity I would like to run by you. And I would talk to him about doing an open house for them as a for sale by owner. And the reason it's a win is because with your marketing, if you have a lot of signage and you're able to market it correctly, then you'll get 20 to 30 groups through an open house in a 2-hour time frame, right? And so let's just assume that I'm on the low side and I got 20 groups through in a 2-hour period. Well, if one of them are looking to buy your house, I'll just give them to you.
Yeah.
You don't owe me anything. I'll just give them to you. You can have them. You can sell your house. That's a win for you. I'm looking to pick up relationships with the other 19, right? So that's how it's a win for me. And I just put together get with your broker, of course, but I just put together a 1-page little listing agreement. It was really, I'm going to advertise a for sale by owner open house. And you're giving me permission to be in the house, and you're giving me permission to market it online and all this stuff, because you have to have a listing agreement to market property, right? For a homeowner. So that's kind of how I got around that. And I was able to just do a little 1-page agreement. And it was only for that day. And that worked well. I picked up a lot of clients from that. And it also gives you a way in with that homeowner.
Right.
And then you just check in on a week-to-week basis and say, hey, just checking to see, have you got it sold yet? And you'll find that over the week, their voice just gets more dejected.
Yeah.
Oh, well, not yet. And then finally they reach out to you if they haven't sold it. And, hey, I'm ready for you to come, because you're the one that was there for them in the beginning and actually trying to help them get it sold.
Well, and I would like to just point out that there's a lot of free ways to get leads. Everyone starting out thinks, I have to have all this money in order to be successful. But the truth is, you start investing in your business, the more you grow. You can vouch that I hate spending money on our business.
Yeah.
Like, I am like the clearance rack of business. Like, I like it to be cheap. I like low overhead, because for me, if I can get a lead free, I'd rather have a lead free. But we've slowly learned, sometimes you got to spend money to make money. But don't ever discount the value of a free lead from an open house or like a for sale by owner online. I mean, even using Facebook, like using those people and getting information that way. Like, there are so many ways for you to contact people now. We have no excuse to go a day without talking to somebody about what we do.
Absolutely. If you're not making contact, you're just not doing your job.
Exactly.
So, well, I'm thrilled about this one. This was a really good podcast, in my opinion. I love how deep we kind of went. If you're checking us out for the first time, thanks for coming and listening this far. You can always find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. Do what our daughter Bailey says. Give us a like and subscribe. And
we should just have her come in and do it.
We should have her just do that and just, do the voiceover. But, also on Tuesdays, if you're following the YouTube channel, I post a training video. It's usually about 8 to 12 minutes long, diving in deep of what you can actually do in your business. So
that's my attention span, is 8 to 12 minutes. So.
That's why I have it to that. Yeah. So, feel free on Tuesdays. I post a new video every Tuesday there. And then obviously on Fridays, you get the podcast video. So, anything else before we go?
Nope, I think we're good.
All right. Well, until next week, we'll see you guys later.
See ya.